finished it yet.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely restart it.
Yeah. I think we're gonna try to make a Zoom class out of it, basically. We do
Okay.
the Wednesday night Zoom, we do that here in Italy, and I'm trying to convince them to make that a class, a topic. Krishna conception, the dangerous conception.
Welcome, Scarlett.
I do have a topic though, if you do want to speak
Yeah,
about something.
please bring it up, Prabhu.
Okay, so just about the, the four regulative principles, like, where are they coming from? What, what value do they have in our spiritual life? And in Sri Chaitanya Saraswati, what meaning do they have there? What's their significance for us?
Well, that sounds very related to the video of Gurudev. It's I mean, it's it's definitely related to some of the things Gurudev discussed. Okay, so Chinmoy Prabhu was bringing up a topic which is always relevant. What is the significance of the four regulative principles? For those who aren't aware, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, right? Those are the four regulative principles. And there's actually a fifth one, no hoarding of gold, which we don't always hear about. We hear that Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada didn't promote that one too much because he wanted his disciples to collect money for the mission. So he didn't want to confuse them on that topic. But that is one of them, and it's also mentioned that that's the source of all the others too, because you can't really engage in the others if you don't have any, money in the first place. So, okay, and so Chinmoy Prabhu was bringing up this point, asking what is the significance in our mission, and we see there are different attitudes towards these principles, right? We see in some communities. And welcome, those Ishwarananda, great to see you with us, and Dana's also joined. We see that in some communities, these principles, we could say, are overemphasized, and there can be this kind of like police mood, right? And there can be a lot of judgment that grows around whether you're following them or not following them. There can also be a sincere mood of following them, but missing what is the real essence of Krishna consciousness. And really the real answer to this question is this phrase in Upadeshamrita, this scripture by Srila Rupa Goswami, which was mentioned in this video of our Gurudev, which has just been published, Niyamagraha. Right, this Niyamagraha, in this Upadeshamrita, this is a very helpful text for all of us. Nectar of instruction is how it's been translated. 11 verses by Srila Rupa Goswami, which are kind of covering everything. And one of those verses is listing 6 qualities which are unfavorable to our practicing life, which are unhelpful. Atyahara is referring to over collection of anything. Prayasha is referring to over endeavoring. Atyahara prayashascha. Prajalpa, worldly meaningless gossip talk. Prajalpa niyamagraha. Now this is the key word for our discussion today. Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha has a double meaning, and it can mean either too much emphasis on the rules and regulations, or it can mean not enough important. So too strict or too loose in regards to the rules and regulations. We have a mic on. Could you make me a co-host, Marie, just so I can, we need to, everyone could please make sure your mics are off. Thank you. So to be too strict about the rules and regulations or to be too relaxed? Oh no, now I have a weird filter on my, what was that? I got a weird thumbs up on my, okay, it's gone now. That was very strange. I hope we don't have a weird hacker in here.
No, there's certain gestures that you do that, and then Zoom just reacts to them. Like,
Oh,
certain-
because I did I do a thumbs up?
I don't know exactly what the gesture was, but I noticed that Zoom will do that, so you're good.
Oh, I see. That's strange. Welcome to Vishakha Didi. I was afraid maybe it was a bug or something. So to be too strict about the rules and regulations or to be too relaxed about them, these are both obstacles to devotion. And the idea is that we want to understand because the problem is when we think that the rules and regulations are the end, right? Are the goal to perfectly do this or to perfectly do that, but they are just a means to an end. These rules and regulations, they provide a helpful structure. They provide a platform which can support our practice of devotion. You know, one way our Gurudev, sorry, I may jump around a little bit because there are lots of things flooding in my head, you know, in regards to this topic. But, you know, one point that our Gurudev made, which I really appreciate, is that he pointed out that the rules, these rules and well, we're talking about the regulative principles. He said they are human principles. He said they're not Vaishnava principles. So these regulative principles, they'll help us to be good humans, right? They'll help us to be pious humans. And that's definitely a good support for our practicing life. But at the same time, they are not essential Vaishnava principles, which means that you will not necessarily be disqualified from Vaishnavism if you can't follow them, because it's actually something separate. And our Gurudev gave as an example, oh, is someone not hearing sound? Oh, okay, looks like it's only Scarlett. Oh, I'm sorry.
You sound fine.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Scarlett, some issue there. Okay, looks like it's back. So then our Gurudev gave as an example the principles of humility, tolerance, and respect. Trinadapi sunichena. These are Vaishnava principles. These are things which will actually support the growth of Vaishnavism, of Vaishnavata, in a living way within our heart, right? But then these other things, these regulative principles, intoxication and so on, these are concerned with material purity. That's another distinction which our Gurudev made. There's a difference between mundane purity and spiritual purity. And there was one comment he made in Tijuana when he was there, which I heard of. He said something like, I can tolerate any mundane rascaldom. He said, but I cannot tolerate a lack of spiritual chastity. And there was this other occasion I'm reminded of, as I said, I am going to jump around a little because there's so many things I'm remembering at the same time. I'm reminded also of this one time, I won't mention any names, but it was one young male devotee who would spend time in India, and he had a reputation for being a bit of a womanizer. In fact, he still does now. But he was a very faithful and, you know, loving disciple of our Gurudev. He would spend long periods in India. But he had this weakness. And there was one occasion he was going to join some preaching party in India somewhere. And our Gurudev mentioned at that time about him, he has chastity. And it was a particular situation, actually, where they were going to preach in an environment that was a bit of what we might call a kitchery pot, many different conceptions, many mixed up ideas about what Krishna consciousness is. And our Gurudev mentioned, like, he's chaste in the sense that he's very fixed in the conception of his guru and the conception of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he felt that he wouldn't be confused by all these different ideas. But it was Madhusudan Maharaj who told me of this occasion. And he said that when our Gurudev said that he is chaste, he kind of was a bit taken aback, because normally we think of chaste in a male-female relationship sense. And so Madhusudan Maharaj was taken aback. Oh, I wouldn't have thought of him as a chaste person. And then he understood our Gurudev meant in a spiritual sense, that he has chastity to his guru, he has chastity to the conception of Krishna consciousness. And so we have to, this is actually an extremely difficult point for many devotees. And then I've seen that it can be a concept that our devotees, it's actually really important that we discuss this, because if it's not understood, it's very easy for us to criticize and judge and take ourselves to our own downfall in Krishna consciousness. And I've seen cases where communities will how can I say, go on a witch hunt might be a bit too of an extreme way to put it, but be in a mood of criticism, judgment about some devotees' material faults, and they're actually damaging their own spiritual lives. And in this context, we can remember there's this famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, Api chet sara charo bhajate mamananya bhak sadar eva, what is it? Sadar eva, is it? You may be remembered, Chinmay. Api chet sara charo bhajate mamananya bhak sadar eva samantavya samyag vyavasito hi sa, right? Saying that even Krishna is saying, this is a very key verse in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna is saying, even if a very wicked person, he uses a strong word, sudurachar, not just like a wicked, but very wicked person. If they are exclusively devoted to me, Ananya Bhak means an exclusive devotee of the Lord. Even if a very wicked person is exclusively devoted to me, Sadur Eva Samantavya, you should consider them to be a sadhu. You should consider them to be a devotee. Why? Samyag Vyavasito Hisa, because their resolve is perfect, right? They are struggling with some anarthas, they're struggling with some scars from previous births, right? But they have given themselves, they've wholesale given themselves to the Lord. And these other things, they're just shadows, right? They will soon disappear. So this is we can appreciate this in theory. Well, some may not be able to even understand it in theory, because it's a tricky thing, right? Someone may have some immoral human behavior, but we should honor them, right? It is a difficult thing to understand. And this is how we can understand it. We have to understand saguna and nirguna. Will you put that in your notebook, Ati Sanjay? I'll write it in the chat. These are very key concepts. And welcome everyone who's joined. Krishna Mohini, Tungarasa, Ramananda Prabhu. Very happy to see you all. So saguna and nirguna. So it's really key. Like if we're building in a systematic way our conception of Krishna consciousness, then these are the words we need to understand from the get-go, right? And so guna means qualities, and sa means with. So saguna means with qualities, and it's referring to material qualities. Then nirguna means without qualities, and it means without material qualities. So simply, saguna means of a material nature, and nirguna means of a divine, transcendental nature. But now this is, so that sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But this is where things get complicated, that there are different types of material qualities. So what are Ati-san, did you remember the 3 modes of material nature? Okay, I'm gonna pick on someone else. I would pick on Axel, but he's not here. What about Ishwarananda? Oh, but he's at work probably, so he can't speak. Okay, okay, Scarlett, you tell us, what are the 3 modes of material nature? Okay, maybe Scarlett also can come to the chat right now. But you can type it out, Scarlett. Okay, Kirtida, you tell us.
Dandavat.
Dandavat.
Modes of passion, tamas, ignorance. Modes of passion.
Right, there's
and
the mode
goodness.
of passion, right? Raja Guna.
Yeah, tamas.
Then there's the mode of ignorance, tamas, yes.
Tamas, yes. Passion, ignorance, and goodness.
And goodness, right, sattva.
And sattva goodness.
What did you say?
And over goodness.
Right, then there's Shuddha sattva. Very
Shuddha
wow.
sattva, yes.
Bonus points for Kirtida. Very nice. Yeah, so I'll type that out. Sattva. Oh dear, this autocorrect is not helpful right now. Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tama guna. Okay, so Sattva guna, mode of goodness, Raja guna, mode of passion, and Tama guna, mode of ignorance. And then Kirtida also went further and told us about Shuddha Sattva, which means pure goodness. So that's actually very helpful to introduce, because that implies that there's a type of goodness which isn't fully pure. So these are the 3 modes of material nature: Sattva guna, Raja guna, Tama guna. And so this is something that's discussed extensively in Bhagavad Gita. So you can refer there for more on that. But for the purpose of this discussion, we'll just look at this Sattva guna. Sattva guna means anything that is of a good, good nature, what we consider to be good, clean, like for example, cleanliness or honesty, discipline. These are all things in the mode in the energy of goodness. We could say, vegetarianism or veganism, this is in the mode of goodness. Waking up early, this is in the times of day, are also they also correlate with different gunas, different modes of nature, energies, right? But now here's the point. Sattva gun, I'm really happy about how this is developing. This is nice. So Sattva guna, mode of goodness, but the problem with Sattva guna is it may or may not be related with the spirit of devotion. It may not be God connected. It may not be Krishna connected. That's the problem. So for example, someone could be clean, but they could be an atheist. Or, someone could be an eco warrior and take care of the planet, but they have zero attraction to anything beyond this world, zero interest. So therefore, what they're doing, it's very limited. It's limited to a very small context and span of time and space, right? And most important point is that it's not related to the nature of the true self at all and their real need. So this sattva guna, it's not necessarily helpful. Oh, okay, Scarlett, no problem. Thank you for letting us know. She's on her way home and having trouble with the phone. Well, amazing you're tuning in on the road. That's so cool. So this sattva guna, if it's so the thing is, this sattva guna, it gives a nice support. You know, if you're clean, there's also an expression, right? Cleanliness is next to godliness, right? Something like that. If you're clean, it provides a nice space. It provides a nice platform. It's supportive. A clean life is supportive of our spiritual practice. And so these regulative principles, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no meat eating, and so on, these are all about cleanliness, about material cleanliness. So they are in the energy of goodness, sattva gun. And so they give a good support. They give a good platform for spiritual practice, because you see how the other energies, they can be really distracting and really take us down. So for example, Raja Guna, what's in Raja Guna? Like partying, you could say. Intoxication is probably Tamaguna, mode of ignorance. Sleeping too much, you know, so you can see how these things can take us away. And these other gunas, there's more heavy karma attached. And so when you have more negative karma attached, that also can create greater obstacle for your spiritual life, right? So this is the thing, a clean life, a sattvic life, it provides a good platform for our spiritual development, our spiritual practice. However, it doesn't necessarily equal devotion. Not at all. And if anything, one problem with it, and our Gurudev has also discussed this, one problem for persons who are overly fixed on sattva gun, sattvic life, is that it can make one arrogant and proud. This is another issue, right? That if someone is very perfect in everything that they do and very clean, it can make them very proud about that. And then pride, that's the worst quality for spiritual development. This is the problem. It's a very funny thing, isn't it? And then, I mean, I've even heard devotees say, oh, I deliberately, you know, keep on with my bad habits because it keeps me humble. I wouldn't encourage that. I've heard a couple of devotees say that, you know. But it's a tricky thing, because it does keep, when you have some mundane faults, it does keep you humble. That is true. But it shouldn't be an excuse to continue indulging in them. So it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing. What it all comes down to in the end, I would say, is that we're depending on mercy. And although we may struggle with our anarthas, with our bad habits, it should be a sincere struggle. It should be a sincere struggle. And we're always praying for mercy, right? We are always praying for grace to support us. So overall, in gist, I would say, you know, what is the relationship of, what is the importance of these regulative principles? I would say they offer an important foundation. They offer a valuable foundation for a spiritual life, but they are not indispensable. I would say that if one cannot follow the regulative principles, they are not disqualified from devotion. And then there was something else that just came into my mind just now I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, another factor I feel is also important about these regulative principles is that I feel another point here is that we want to maintain some dignity, right? I see Ganglila has her hand raised. I'll get to you in just a minute. You see, we have to remember too, we're a part of the mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right? And we want to remember like what Saraswati Thakur went through to give us what we have today so easily. We shouldn't underestimate that. You know, he struggled so much to establish like a real structure for our practicing life, to establish the dignity of what Mahaprabhu's conception is, right? Because we have to remember, going back not too long ago, what year are we in now? It's 2024. Yeah, going back just about 100 years ago, the group of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were, you know, they were looked down upon in society. You know, because Mahaprabhu's movement is based on a spirit of love, and because Mahaprabhu, he doesn't put so much emphasis on rules, regulations, and also on hierarchy and all these things. Because of that, you know, Mahaprabhu's movement very easily became quite polluted, and there were many people who, in the name of devotion, were engaging in all sorts of, you know, degraded behavior, right? And so, and so the you know, the good section of society, they look down upon the Vaishnavas. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then later his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they went through so much trouble and so much endeavor to carve a space for the true followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who very sincerely wanted to practice Gaudiya Vaishnavism, right? And as a part of that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati introduced the sannyas ashram into Mahaprabhu's lineage, right? Actually, Vaishnavism, oh, Ishwarananda is showing us Gaura Sundar, Jai, Shri Gaura Sundar Ji Ki Jai, Salt Lake City. The sannyas, this sannyas is not really a part of pure Vaishnavism. You know, Vaishnavism is based on simplicity and love, simply loving connection with the Lord, right? So there's no need for any special dress or some special social order or any of these things. It's Grihe Tako, Vane Tako, Sada Hari, you know, like Bhakti, you know, sings in a song, whether you live in a forest or whether you live in a house, if you always sing the name of Hari, I want your association, the name of Gauranga, right? I'm begging for your association. This is the real mood of Vaishnavism. But Saraswati Thakur saw, because Mahaprabhu's movement had become so polluted and misunderstood and misrepresented and malpractice, full of malpractices, then he realized, you know, okay, Vaishnavism is simple and doesn't require any formality, but the problem is we live in a mundane environment, and therefore we need some mundane structure. And so therefore he introduced some elements of the Varnashrama system, the social system of India, and including the sannyas order, the order of renunciation, which was very radical, had not been done in Mahaprabhu's movement before, and met with great opposition. But he did it because it's time, place, circumstance, right? He was a real visionary, and he could see this is what's necessary this time. He also brought in Brahmin initiation, which is not not our thing. You know, we hear that Bhaktivinoda Thakur burned his Brahmin thread. You know, it's not, and it's not a part of essential Vaishnavism at all. But sorry, but again, we're dealing in a mundane environment. We have to employ some things which are, you know, it's like our Gurudev used to say, to set pure gold, like to set gold and jewelry, you need some alloy because gold is too soft or something like that. So he said, you need some impure metal in order to make jewelry. And so he said, like, when you're making a mission, then you need some alloy, you know, you need some elements of this mundane plane. And so this is what I want to say, right? That we are all, we all want to think of ourselves as responsible members of the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we have to think about what type of sacrifice Saraswati Thakur made in order to give our movement the dignity that it has today. And so do we want to drag that down, you know? So I also feel there's an element of maintaining some dignified appearance, you know, and if we are showing, you know, we are clean people, we are moral people, then naturally the society will honor that. You know, they will give more honor, more recognition to that. So I feel that that's also an element. And our Gurudev, he had that spirit of Saraswati Thakur, even more than his guru, I would dare to say. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he commented on that. And he said about Srila Govinda Maharaj, it was as if he had had the extensive association of Srila Saraswati Thakur, even more than some of his direct disciples, right? And our Gurudev, like I heard him comment a few times, like he liked devotees to dress nicely. You know, he said once, who comes with me must dress nicely. You know? So yeah, and I mean, obviously some devotees may struggle with certain bad habits, you know, and I would say keep it to yourself. Don't need to don't need to change our philosophy to justify our bad habits, but just, you know, if you honestly struggle with something, that's okay. You know, that's your struggle between you and God and your guru, and that's okay. But overall, these regulative principles, they're giving us a helpful support, but they're not essential elements of Vaishnava practice, and they won't disqualify us from our real development in Krishna consciousness if we cannot perfectly practice them. This video, I only got halfway through, but I highly recommend it. It's the latest video that Chinmoy Prabhu has uploaded onto this channel, Srila Govinda Maharaj video series, and I need to finish it, but it's really, really wonderful. And in the beginning, Gurudev was mentioning how some people criticize me because I don't put so much emphasis on the rules and regulations. And then he was saying, they cannot understand what I am doing. And then he said, in 14 lifetimes, they won't understand. Then he said, in 1400 lifetimes, they will never understand. You know? Like, to really go forward, we need to develop some nuanced understanding. You know, things are not black and white. It's not so straightforward. But Ganga Leela wants to say something, and I would definitely like to hear from Chinmoy Prabhu, of course, for his thoughts on this topic. Yes, please go ahead, Ganga Leela.
Hi, Krishna Dhanavad, Vishakha Dasi. It troubles me actually. So it releases me what you just shared, and also troubles me because I guess I have to also watch the video. So I have been struggling with a relationship where I am very disturbed by their illicit sex behavior, because it's not hidden, it's in the open, and it's been disturbing. And I've been thinking, okay, so Vaishnav association is really important. And I was thinking hardly about kind of stepping away from that personality, from that particular person. And now I'm not so sure after what I heard, because what you shared about the fixed state of the spiritual practice is it's absolutely there in that person. But I find it kind of almost, it provokes me. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And I thought that I need to step out of associating. So, and I until this moment didn't know how. I was wondering how to do that. And now that was very clarifying. But at the same time, it keeps me in that troubled situation. I still don't really know what will be recommended for my person to. Does that make sense? I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
across what I'm asking.
you've brought up another nice point. David P, come say hello. David P is with us here. I mean, you brought up another nice point. Dandavata Durata. That we can give our Dandavat from a distance. And that was something that our Gurudev used to, I mean, I heard our Gurudev mention that many times, you know. There may be cases where, I mean, he emphasized it so much. We don't know who is a Vaishnava. We don't know, right? And I know some cases of Vaishnavas who had some bad habits, which I don't want to mention. But I also know that they had so much wealth in Krishna consciousness at the same time, and it can be difficult to accommodate these two things. But if it is something that is of such a disturbing nature like this, then the best thing may be to love them from a distance, honor them from a distance. And our Gurudev used to say that, you know, give your respects from a distance. You know, and we definitely don't want to put judgment on them, because we just don't know who they are. Oh, well, my mother's calling me now. She never calls me on. Dandavat Mata, you're on Zoom right now in the middle of a Zoom meeting. Okay, I'll call you back later, Mata. Do you have any words of wisdom?
Wait, I just want to say something. Is David Priya there?
Yeah, David Priya. Okay, I'll hand you to David Priya. So we give our honor from a distance. You know, that is the solution. You know, we definitely don't want to judge them, because we don't know at all. But having their association may be bad for us, actually. You know, it can bring us down. It may awaken some anarthas in us that we thought had disappeared. You know, so it may be harmful for us to associate with them closely. But that doesn't mean that they're not still Vaishnavas and we shouldn't still honor them in our hearts. I mean, I can think of many examples of Vaishnavas. I feel so much love and honor for them, but I also feel like it won't be helpful for me to associate closely with them, right? So, you know, we have to be practical, right? I'm just looking here at Marie's comment here. Yeah, and another thing, if someone's behavior is so like public, kind of like that, also we also have to think about the dignity of the mission. You know, I mean, I also had a similar case recently where I had to step back from someone because I feel like they're not setting, you know, they're not representing what I want to show. You know, we're trying to represent something in a dignified way, and then I have to be careful about, you know, who's going to be traveling, who's going to be a part of our preaching team, you know, but I can still love them and respect them, you know. But I'm not, you know, and we also have to think like how, like everyone should be given some, everyone can be accommodated, but it may be differently, right? You know, like I'm remembering now, there was this one case, actually there are a few cases, right? But there's one case in originally Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this Kaliya Krishna Das, right? And he's traveling with Mahaprabhu. And then in South India, he gets distracted by, he gets like bewildered and enticed by these local gypsy women. And then Mahaprabhu goes in and it mentions how he drags him out, pulls him out. And there's one nice verse there saying, glorious is the master who will take out his wayward servant by the hair, pull him out. We can all hope for that, right? And Mahaprabhu doesn't say anything in that time, and they return back to home base in Jagannath Puri. But then when he gets to Puri, Mahaprabhu has this gathering, all the devotees come back to see him. He's been gone for so long. And at that time, Mahaprabhu tells his devotees, we had this trouble with Kaliya Krishna Das. He cannot travel with me anymore. But what's very interesting is you see all the devotees of Mahaprabhu there, they have this very loving mood. And they don't jump into judgment or criticism, but rather they consult amongst themselves. Oh, how can we keep him in the service of Mahaprabhu? It's so beautiful to see. Not, Mahaprabhu is rejecting him, but Nityananda Prabhu and the others are like, oh, how can we include him somehow? And so they eventually come up with this service that I think it was that they asked him to be in charge of delivering some message to Navadvip for Mother Shachi, something like that. They sent him to Navadvip with some task. And also before that, they also get approval from Mahaprabhu. They don't mention the name, but they say, can we send someone to do this service to Navadvip? And Mahaprabhu says, yes, no problem. And so in this way, because of his faults, he couldn't continue to directly serve Mahaprabhu or stay directly in Mahaprabhu's association. But they find a way that he can, a little bit of a distance, he can still continue with his connection and service. And then there was an interesting incident that took place in the time of Saraswati Thakur's preaching in the Gaudiya Math. We heard from Srila Sridhar Maharaj that you asked him maybe to close the door. It's a bit noisy. There was a case with we heard from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. There was a case. It was at a temple in, maybe it was in Madras, but there was one brahmachari who had some falling down with some girl. He had some type of affair with some local girl, some woman, and then what was it that happened? I think he'd had to leave the temple, of course, because of that. That's right. He'd left the temple. He'd been asked to leave. It had been like quite a scandal, I think, like it had become public with the local people. It'd been like quite a mess. And so he had to leave the temple, the Math, for some time. And then what happened is he returned to the Math while Srila Sridhar Maharaj was there. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj was there in some type of management capacity. And so this boy, this young man, he approached Srila Sridhar Maharaj asking, oh, I had this fault, I had to leave. Can I come back? I'd like to return to my service life. I had some accident, but I want to come back. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj wasn't sure how to proceed. But it happened that Saraswati Thakur was coming soon as a part of his, travels. Saraswati Thakur was coming to visit that Math soon. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and I believe another manager, they told the boy, okay, you wait for some time. Prabhupada is coming. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur is coming. We will consult with him and we'll let you know his decision. And so they waited, and Saraswati Thakur came, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj inquired, how can we address this situation? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj was very surprised by Saraswati Thakur's answer. he referred to that incident which I just told of Kaliya Krishnadas. And Saraswati Thakur said, Mahaprabhu could not accept Kaliya Krishnadas. And he said, so I also cannot accept him. And he said, however, you in the mood of Nityananda Prabhu, you should accept him. You should accommodate him. You know, you should engage him. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj is very surprised because normally his thinking was, whatever my guru thinks, I will think the same, right? I will be one with my guru. But here, my guru is telling me to think differently from him. So he was saying, right, Saraswati Thakur was saying, it's not appropriate for me to directly engage with him, but you know, like a big brother, you could say, like you give love and support to him, right? So I'm just making the point that, you know, we all have a different role to play. We all have different things are suitable for different people, and everybody can be engaged in some way, no matter how fallen they are. If someone has some attraction to Krishna consciousness, they can be engaged in some way. But that may or may not be our duty to accommodate that. It may or not be our role to engage with that person, right? In some way, they can go on with their practicing life. We don't want to deny anyone that opportunity, right? But that may not be our job. Right? They can go on in some way with in connection with the appropriate persons. But we have to consider what is appropriate for us, what is our capacity, and what's helpful for our spiritual life. You know, one principle which comes to mind, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions it sometimes, save ourselves first, right? Why do we don't need to be so eager to save the world. No, first we need to be in some safe position. Right. So if we think that some association is damaging to us, is disturbing our spiritual development in some way, if that association is not supporting us, you know, then we can let it go with love. You know, we can let it go. You know. It's not for us. It's not necessarily our job to take someone on and save them, right? It can be for someone else. So. And what's especially sad is when you see someone has some bad habit and they're unapologetic about it. That is very difficult, you know. Then, you know, again, we don't know who is who and, you know, what is what, but we can respect them from a distance, right? Okay, well, Chinmoy Prabhu, please share.
Thank you,
share.
Vishakha.
I hope that was helpful, Gangalila.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Chinmoy Prabhu, please share some insight on this topic.
Well, no, I was kind of thinking about it too, because I know some societies stress more these regulative principles, but it doesn't seem in Chaitanya Saraswat Mat they're given so much emphasis. And like what you explained, is, you know, is very nice description of how we see these four regulative principles. You know, I think we could see them as anarthas, unwanted desires, and to cleanse us of these unwanted desires, we must follow these four regulative principles. But as you're saying, it won't prevent us from, you know, achieving bhakti in our it won't prevent us from achieving devotion. And it's always Guru Maharaj are always stressing that practice, that bhakti practice of serving the Vaishnavas, serving gurus. That will be what will cleanse us.
Jai. Well, yes, that's the most important thing. Actually, I think I totally forgot to mention that. But yes, our gurus are always emphasizing the positive side, right? And this is what is that verse in, right? Machas parshas tu kuntayas. No, not that. the higher taste verse in Bhagavad Gita? Fox, do you remember that one? Higher taste. But it's saying, right, that as our attachment to the higher increases, then naturally these lower tendencies, how does it go? It's in chapter 2, I think. Maybe you know, Chinmay Prabhu, the Raso Sparsham has the word rasa in it too. But anyway, yeah, saying that one may externally restrict their senses, but internally the taste remains for those mundane things. But one who has some param drishtva, has some higher vision, then automatically they lose that lower attraction. So this is real Vaishnava. This is the real principle of Vaishnavism, that the more our affinity for Krishna increases, the less we will automatically have attraction to these lower things. That is the real principle. I think I want to look that verse up. Oh, Ananda Krishna found it. Great. Yeah, this is it. Chapter 2, verse 59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Someone may restrain the senses from their objects of enjoyment, but the taste for the sense objects remains. However, even this taste ceases for those who realize the supreme. The translation is a little odd. This is a translation of a translation. But anyway, I adjusted it a little bit here. So this is the real principle of Vaishnavism, right? And this was what we see that Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj have emphasized, right? As Chinmay Prabhu mentioned, service to the Vaishnavas. This is the number one Vaishnava principle. Shravan and Kirtan. This is, oh, thank you. Chinmay shared a better translation here in our chat here. So service to the Vaishnavas, Shravan and Kirtan, hearing and chanting, these are real essential Vaishnava principles. And by increasing our attachment to these, engaging in these, automatically, it is a common sense. It is common sense. No, like you could say, oh, I'm giving up smoking, but if you go do something better, then it's easy, right? Or I'm giving up alcohol or whatever it is, right? Or like people struggle with giving up meat, and then they discover so many wonderful dishes at their local temple, right? It's not so difficult anymore. So the more we become attracted and engaged by the wonder in Krishna consciousness, naturally these lower things will leave us. And it's not about struggling to give things up as much as it is about engaging in the beauty and the positive side of Krishna consciousness. That's real. Krishna consciousness is always a positive engagement. It's about what you're doing and not what you're not doing. Always, right? So Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they always emphasize that. That is real Vaishnavism. But we also understand Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he emphasized these regulative principles much more, and we can understand why, because he was coming into an environment with people who don't know anything about anything. And he's also coming into the free love and sex and rock and roll of the 60s, right, in America. So he has to just come on strong with all of this, and he's making a foundation, right? So I really see that there's some development, and there's the timing of each of these charjas and their unique presentation of Krishna consciousness. It's all very fitting. Srila Swami, we can also see it in stages. What Srila Swami Maharaj gave, what Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave, what Srila Govinda Maharaj gave. We can see it in stages of presentation, development. And so But yes, this is the real principle of Krishna consciousness, that we are engaging in the positive side. And this is the thing, Krishna, there's this beautiful verse, Shrinvatam, I always remember this, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. The nature of this is so purifying. It's already the most purifying thing. Right? This is already the most purifying thing that one could do. And this is a part of Shraddha, right? This is a part of faith. That by engaging in this, everything will be done. I don't have to do something separate to become free of my bad habits. But by engaging in this, Shravan, Kirtan, Sadhu Sangha, Vaishnava Seva, gradually all these things will clear. Gradually they will leave us. This is real Krishna consciousness, and we have to have faith in it. We have to have faith in the power of the holy name. We have to have faith in the power of our Guru and the grace of the Lord. Our Gurudev, I remember, there were a few talks, and I know Chinmoy Prabhu and Divya Shakti Ji is also with us, and I'm sure you and Ramananda Prabhu, you can all remember some occasions. There were maybe 3 or 4 Deva Priya. There were a few talks that our Gurudev gave where it was clear, like he'd really been thinking about it for some days. Like that's how much he cared about us. Like I saw on several occasions, like he'd been thinking about something for a few days. How can I present this to the devotees? How can I help them with this issue? And then there were like 3 or 4 talks that I remember like that. And one of them, I remember Gurudev was concerned about devotees who were feeling very discouraged and depressed because of their struggling with bad habits and their own weaknesses and so on. Our Gurudev gave this talk. It's included in Revealed Truth, that book, where he was saying, I want to remind the devotees about the mercy of the Lord. Remember the power of the Lord's mercy. And then he quoted, these are very valuable verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, Jato Shadhamat Katasu Nirvina Sarva Karmasu, is describing how when a sincere person, approaches the Lord, engages in all the devotional practices with sincerity, they will struggle in the beginning with their bad habits, but eventually, and that struggle will continue for some time. Our Gurudev, when he was discussing these verses, he gave the analogy of dunking, like someone being dunked underwater, like underwater, coming up, drowning, coming up for air, then going under again. And he was saying, in the same way, like we may struggle like that. Like sometimes our bad habits will take us underwater, and other times we'll come up again. We can breathe, we can see the light, right? Then we go under again, right? But eventually, and then the final verse, Vidyate Hridaya Grantis. Vidyate Hridaya Grantis Kiyante Chashakarmani Ayijiste Kilatani. Is describing how finally the knot on the heart will be pierced. Right? The bondage of karma will be cut, and one will experience pure Krishna consciousness, pure love for Krishna, see Krishna's presence everywhere. So I remember that talk our Gurudev gave, like he really wanted to comfort the devotees, like you're going to be okay, you can do this, and you have to depend on the Lord. That's another key factor here. We're not yogis, we're not jnanis. We're not depending on our own strength. We're depending on mercy. So we want to have faith. That was what he was saying. That we must have faith in the mercy of the Lord and pray for that mercy, invite that mercy. That is what will purify us ultimately. And we're just trying to invite that grace into our lives, right? But the struggle will go on, and it must go on. That's a part of the process. That's a part of proving our sincerity, right? That we're going on with the struggle. We're going on with the good fight. So Yeah. Well, thank you for such a great topic, Chinmoy Prabhu. And Chinmoy Prabhu has shared a link to that YouTube video of Srila Govinda Marsh, which is highly recommended. And Tungarasa is asking, do I remember which part? I think it's the chapters, is it the evolution and revolution chapters? I would have to check. I don't know, I can't really say offhand. But I can share it in our book group. But yeah, it's these verses, they're also, Srila Sridharmaraj also includes them in Prapana Jivanamrita, Jato Shraddha Mat. I'll share the first few words of the shloka here. And so where Gurudev discusses those in Revealed Truth. Yeah. And Srila Sridharmaraj also discusses them. They're very important, very valuable verses for us. Right. Well, thank you all for your good company. Thank you for engaging me. And look forward to next time. Does anyone have any final words for our group today? Any final thoughts? Okay. Thank you, Ati Sundri, for hosting.
Always.
Jai-
Thank you.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami